this is our last week before getting ready for the team trials, and we really have to wait until absolutely the last day to even decide if we're going to be able to go or not be able to. But we're going to prepare just as if we're going to go, and if we can't go, them's the breaks. Sure, go to the team trials. Leave me here with a bathtub half full of water. Sure. Sure. Go to the team trials. Leave me in my cage. Just leave me in my cage soaking wet. Chicky, he wants to be in all the videos. Oh, Chickster. There's never been more chaotic or more crazy in this shop. The bird is going crazy. I'm trying to get ready for the team trials. The carbon fiber's jumping out of the mold. Just been crazy. Now, as I promised on the last video, we have something really awesome to share with you. This is an unbelievable thing going on here. We're at the Teterboro Aviation Hall of Fame Museum. And this is not your average control line flyer here. And we're going to get to see his stuff.
Why are you here? Why am I to be here? Why am I here?
We have some dignitaries, Joe Bescher from the AMA and some of his compadres. Each of them expert in their own field.
Where were you with Elliot's little contest? What is that, a Piper Cub you got in that box?
No, it's a Stinson.
I'll give you some idea of why I wanted to be here. I gave up a day of preparing for the team trials to be here, too. Not that it would matter. I think you can see what's in there.
And don't you think you didn't hear me talk about it yesterday?
It's funny. I was looking around. I don't know what you know. Yeah, go ahead. I got enough bodies.
Go ahead. I'll be back.
You think you have enough bodies?
I got enough.
Don't look at me, pal.
Start unstrapping?
I don't see why not.
I'm not the guy who sent him an email. I said, I want to come back up and revisit the ski. Didn't I tell you?
Want to go? Let's go.
Did you tell me?
No. He'll tell you.
Want to go tomorrow? Go tomorrow.
There you go. Come on. Let's go. Now, wait a minute.
Now, I'm amazed for a lot of reasons. Number one, the trail is unbelievable. The artwork on the trail is unbelievable. Anyway, I got personally invited to come down here by Joe Bescher, who has done a lot of work for Control Line to help us secure that field, and with Rich Jacobon, of course. And he said I'd have a good time. Bring the camera, as we always do.
No, I don't know. That's not an old friend. That says Larry over each bottle.
That made the outline of the go over the blunt. That's actually a piece of
When we get back, you Joe call me, or you can call me, I don't even check. And we'll go up.
Absolutely.
Now we gotta get into the back end.
I think that the single biggest problem was accommodations for telephone. So this time I got to go and I got to really scope the place out. And if it means coming up there, staying overnight, you want to seriously look at it.
But they're doing remarkable things with cameras.
Well, fun, good. So
when are you coming back from Germany?
26th of
Down in
September.
the museum down at,
Yeah, I'm going
he's got,
Saturday, I said.
I'd be amazed how nice this trailer is. But can you picture going to the Nats in this trailer? Kids sleep in it, live in it, build in it.
Yeah, but there was that,
You know, in the world of model aviation, you think you fly control line or RC or scale or gliders or whatever. And you always, at least I do, I always think, oh boy, I've seen it all. And every time I think I've seen it all, along comes the turbine jets, the B-25, something like this. This guy is a personal friend of Joe Bescher's, so I'm hoping to get a little interview with him later. Once he does his thing, this model's going to be on permanent display in the Aviation Hall of Fame Museum where we have our club meetings, the Circle Burner Club meetings, so it should really be nice. And of course I can come visit it as I'm building my B-25 and get ideas from it. I'm also hoping through Joe Bescher we'll get a chance to go and visit this fella's shop, which has to be unbelievable. There's no way they can be mediocre. Look at the size of this. It's unbelievable. And you always think you've seen it all, and along comes something even more incredible.
Executive Suite.
Invasion Stripes.
You got only 2 inches on this side.
You gotta wipe that thing off.
Can you imagine bringing this to the Nats and entering it in control line?
Alright.
Paul Walker,
Now
eat
we
your
can
heart
steer it
out.
like a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, we just hold it a minute. All right, Jeff, here's the way the scenario goes for this thing. This is for removal. Okay. That doesn't pull these pins. This rod will make it fully.
No, that's okay, that's okay.
It's all, it's fine.
You take this off.
Screws.
Just slide it up. And all the wing nuts and then get back.
Yeah.
Yeah, smart move.
Well, my logic is, we get it up there, and that's when it stays.
Yeah.
But where can we get it so we can put a rib, put it on the grass in front of the... Yeah, okay.
You want me to move my car?
No, we get it right in front
Hey,
of
you guys, you want me to move my car, Jeff? In front of the museum?
Let's keep this down.
It would be better, wouldn't it?
Where's your car?
right here. Put it right on the grass, right in front of the museum.
Keep the nose wheel off the ground though, so we don't run into a problem.
Pretty cool, Joe, pretty cool. You're right. Worth the trip.
Oh, you don't want to get it on the grass?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we'll back it on the grass.
Beautiful job. Boy, that's awesome.
If you want to build an airplane, you gotta build an airplane.
Oh, shit.
Hey, Art,
Will it stay?
lift off the wheels a bit.
Well, before you photograph it, don't we want to put the wings on?
Lift it off the wheels a little bit. Okay. That's side too.
Oh, you let
What's the matter?
the wheels are canted out.
Yeah.
Alright, will it straighten out on its own?
Yeah, we should.
How's that?
Better.
I need
We're on a slope here.
pull those two screws out.
I told Artie to dust it, but you know what? He does crappy household work.
Actually, you can leave them. Look at it. Take them off anyhow.
Here, Bobby.
Yeah, building it.
So we don't lose them.
You just take it to the car wash, huh, Joe?
I feel like a car wash. Loves it down there. Look at the dust on this thing. Now flying turbines. Yeah.
You know what you're gonna say down there?
Very nice. Yeah, you can buy a house down there.
Now that's what I call a model airplane.
He's in Fort St. Lucie.
Okay, you gotta get
Nice work, Joe.
Charlotte County Airport.
Not much, but nice.
Actually, you want to go get that shit too, you have to say it.
Where's the other one?
He doesn't want to put them in yet.
Oh, you don't want to put the screws in?
No, we're gonna take them out.
Oh, okay, yeah, then you might as well.
Everything.
You can put your car wash it.
No, it's down, way down. Hurry up, Harry. You got to look at this thing.
I don't know about you, but I am.
What kind of airplane is that, Harry?
I guess.
2001.
Smoke out here?
Yeah, I'll hear ya.
Nino.
All those fueled up models I got in there.
I don't know why I have four starters.
Oh, damn, that's pretty.
Hard not to like a B-25. It's a very, very aesthetically pleasing model.
That's good. I want you in there.
Frenchman, the back pilot.
He doesn't want to come back.
I get it.
Not with a mid-car.
I think he farted in the...
Big show next year. Like, okay. Sounds like something fun? At the same time, or not?
On that side? You wanna, they're gonna take a picture? Hi, Harry. Chuck Gill. I'm sorry. I'm an old guy here. Oh, really? Yeah. On B-25? Yeah, I'm That is a serious airplane. Felt like you were up in a fourth-story building when you were sitting up there, didn't you?
Yeah, 29, sitting up. That's a ground now.
Yeah.
What's the matter? It won't work?
Not work. Big-ass airplane.
You got to go.
Never left the state.
It worked then?
It worked then.
We have a handshake.
Good. Watch one of the programs about the girl that used to do the plane.
Now if we can get the entire crew in here.
Hey! Where the hell did he come from? And the story that one girl was telling was really cute. She said that a lot of the
Behind the
guys
wing.
that they were
Nino.
scheduled to fly B-29 didn't want to. They were hesitant.
You want to get in there? I'd like to get the entire
And
crew.
so what they did was they got a crew of girls.
I heard that story.
Yeah, to fly them, and they figured the guys would go, shit, the girls can do it, we can do it.
It's a prisoner shirt. Get on the other side, Chuck or Bobby. It's a prisoner shirt.
You don't want to sit next to you, brother.
Hey, on three, everybody left. What's the Alright, oh, look over here. Look this way.
Here we are. Stand still.
All right. We're standing still. Holy shit. Gee, thanks.
91st.
I can't believe it. Bill Rob still can't work the goddamn camera.
Careful about that.
You know, this is not going to everything you say is coming out.
What that was supposed to be.
We'll start it up so we can fly it. How about it?
Brum, 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 brum.
This thing starts.
Yeah, right.
Is this it?
If this thing starts,
I want to get the name on the back there.
Sounds like a good idea.
you got that, Bill?
Hey, Pat, is anybody coming from the newspaper? They're supposed to be.
What do you want? You want to just sit now? Let's sit here.
You know what? If the newspaper shows up, we'll let them use our photographs. Is she coming? This is a trip. Yes, but she was. Look at this. Oh, it's a girl.
The magazines the airplane was on the cover of. It was not your average model.
If we did, we got about 2 inches deep. A piece of sheet over and under each piece of plastic. I think, you know, the way to the cover sheet, what we got to do is cover the sheet. So I take those and I scan them and everything. What I'm actually
I'll call him again.
Nice snack.
don't want to get in the middle of this, but this is something.
Well, there's many people involved.
I'm trying to get as many detail shots as I can for little things that might be helpful when we make the molds and make the parts, the detailing.
We did one awards at the air show.
You know, the fact that you're here, got this and this, you know, out in the front with the planes in the back, you know, so we know where it's at.
Yep.
Oh, well, then you tell us what you want to do.
Well, it's up to you. You want to wait for the newspaper or not?
What'll be nice is every time we have one of our club meetings, and we're going to be doing more demos in the future, this will be one of the things we can just go and check out. See on display. There's, by the way, in this museum there's about, I think 300 models altogether. Beautifully crafted models of every type and description. We also anticipated at one time putting the Seafire in this museum, donating it to the museum, but changed my mind when I made my own museum, the Spitfire bedroom. But certainly, maybe that one of these days we'll donate one to the museum. Even though it's a control and stunt model, it's not a scale model, it's irrelevant.
They make a rough fucking scale just to justify it. Yeah, machine, this is a machine X level, not real detail.
What are you going to do for money's labor?
Answer at
the office. I know, but what are you going to get $10
At least $45.
Yeah.
How much time is it on the
Already overruled.
It's a corner.
Look at that.
I know. Did he have them before?
You have to have that reader in order to...
Artie, I'm proud of you. It's a sun project.
Let me just change the battery.
It's gonna be a winner. It's gonna be a winner. It's gonna make this.
Hey, I'll make it 950.
Oh, we'll get that. We're gonna get it.
I got 5 for inside. You know, I'm taking these out of my
No, I was going to see it. I didn't like your... I never... You might want another guy on the back. We gotta be real careful when we squeeze it. Are we over there? Gonna be close. Wait a minute. Yeah, go forward to your right. Oh, wait a minute.
That won't turn.
Okay. Mike, can we move that case? We have 8 inches over there, not now.
That's not
Don't go
enough.
back any further. Now you can come over.
Yeah, it's not enough.
You sure?
Yeah, you can't make that turn.
We can't make the cabinet or we can't make the propeller?
Once we get.
There, now we can turn. Uh-oh, no, stop. We gotta move
Close
this.
this cabinet.
Once this is stuff on top of that.
We better get an official guy to stand in front of the cabinet.
cleared here, all right?
Yeah, we're clearing the door.
Check it out.
Watch the camera, you gotta steer this way now.
Wait a minute.
We gotta get the tail pass. Once we get the tail pass. Oh, okay.
All right, now it's working.
Okay.
Check it out.
What you got?
Doc, we gotta go back to you. Can we slide, can it be picked up by the wind roof? Yeah,
You want
it can be, but you better get two strong guys on it.
And do what with it?
We're gonna lift it and walk it over. Slide it over.
No, lift
ahead.
off the wheels, right?
Same way. Good. Okay. We better stay here.
That's okay.
All right, remember your nose gear is down.
I'll take the car.
Okay. Let's turn it about 45.
You got a pulley up?
Oh, is this where it's going, right here?
You have a pulley up there?
I got to climb up there and put a pulley up there, along the point where we're gonna center. Which way are you gonna face the nose? That way? Nose is gonna face this way. Wingtip over there, over the cable. Well, that's put here with the ladder in. That's why we have to bring it up, rotate it, and keep going up with it. Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. Do you want to rig it under the fuselage, do you want to rig it under the wings, or do you want to rig it under both?
Well, the strongest one would be right at the root of the thing, the leading edge, around the fuselage, like what is here.
Okay. And that's why we want to be careful not to fuck this up.
Now, you want to get, what do you want to rig it with?
I've got a cable. I've got 30 feet of cable.
Are you going to,
Here.
jack it on it here?
Then we use the rope to lift the airplane up, and then the harness, a little bit of the cable. And then we attach it. Take that cable down, which is,
Now, is this going
that's when we'll rig this.
do you have a tape to tell you how far you... You need 18.
With the rare finds in the museum here. I might be wrong, but I think this is the only one in the world that's on display. Very unusual engine. Anyway, if you're ever in the area of Peterborough, New Jersey, this is an excellent place to spend the day. Excellent things on display. And to that is now being added the incredible B-25. There's a section dedicated to the Tuskegee Airmen. And I'm not sure, but several of the Tuskegee Airmen came from this area, specifically Rutherford. I've heard that, but I'm not sure that's true. South Plainfield, Orange. Fort Monmouth, all roughly from our area. Not that New Jersey's that big of a place anyway. Quite a nice tribute to the Tuskegee Airmen. A great place to have a model airplane meeting of any kind. You never get bored. And they move the stuff around, they keep adding stuff. A lot of beautiful artwork that's been donated to the museum over the years. Rabe's favorite picture. Russo's favorite picture. Tom McLean's favorite picture. We've been viewing different things at the museum while the owner is getting ready to assist in getting us into display position. You never think of in a museum environment getting things into position is quite a chore. So you have some kind of pulley system going on It's a big plant, of course. Not far from my house, less than a mile from my house. Honeycombing on the air-colored cylinders. Now, this is actually the person. Lou Ramley is the one that signed my pilot's license on my final test. And I see a little tribute to him. He's quite a colorful guy. He also, for the kind of people that would keep track of this kind of stuff, he signed my father's log and my Uncle Henry's log. So. There's just one neat picture after another here. Unbelievable. If you love airplanes, this is a great place to hang out. On the second story of the museum.
People living in balance. That's the only thing I take it straight. Otherwise, you're just looking at those put together.
is a real MASH display, a Korean Air MASH display, completely helicopter. And all the vehicles and kind of cool stuff here. We have to leave to go to work, but
What do you got on the car?
amazing. As much as we'd like to stay and see, we'll see it at a future club meeting, but we really do have to start making some carbon fiber tanks. We're getting behind on orders already.
I really hope you like the B-25 footage. That was a special day. Really did enjoy that, and special thanks to Joe Besher for inviting me down there. Anyway, we're back to doing our testing for carbon fiber tanks. Now, there's a couple of things if you don't follow through with this, just so you don't mistake what's going on. See, this you can always tell the footage before it was repaired because it had the 2-horse shields, and it was from the USA. Now it's from the SA. But anyway, he's totally repaired. But in the meantime, what we've done is we've loaned Carlos Serra our 56 and the little Cardinal, the yellow and purple Cardinal, because he basically had no plane to fly for the rest of the year. And I didn't want him to be out of the event for what amounts to be the last 2 or 3 months of the year. And he has been such a good friend. I can't say enough good things about him that I just feel like he will enjoy that plane, and we'll get to see it on video, and he'll get to do some testing. He's making me up some Venturis too. And any time a plane has been, and obviously this has been really, you've probably seen the repair on video, it always requires a couple of days of retrimming. And in this case, it's a significant retrim, because not only we had it trimmed for the 56, and I was skeptical about the 56, and the reason is this ship has a relatively long nose, and the long nose meant that all the weight of a 4-stroke was in the front, and it required a significant retrim. The handle got bigger, I had tail weight in it, and it never seemed to perform as well as with the lighter motor. Now, the problem is, when you're going to build a plane for a 4-stroke, you shorten the nose an inch or 2 and everything's fine. Now, Paul Walker said his plane that he's testing with a 56 actually needed some nose weight, but I don't know how long his nose moment arm is. And I thought I'd give a little preview here. Paul is designing a dedicated plane for the 56. And we look forward to seeing his plans, and possibly even if he's willing to share that with us, maybe even building one. I kind of like his stuff anyway. And we have available today, my objective here is to get some trim flights. We're still not sure about the team travel. It's actually harder not knowing if you're going to go than knowing if you're going to go, because you're preparing, but it's like being a backup quarterback. You prepare all week, and then at the end of the week, sometimes you don't get to go. Well, we don't know. That's all iffy. But we do want to learn, and we'd like to get him back into service for the rest of the year, either way. And it's not a significant difference. We like the jet motor. We have our own tune pipe in here, so it's always worth developing more and more. Well, actually, developing is not the right word. Bill Fitzgerald shared something with me at the Nats, and he said, Wendy, you got to stop building new planes. Just keep flying the old ones, then you'll do better. And he's definitely right. There's no question about it. But I don't enjoy that as much as having new planes. I know there's a trade-off there, one way or another. Anyway, I guess I'm just addicted to having a new plane every split. But anyway, this is the exception to the rule, and what we decided to do is if we can get this in reasonably good trim, since we have such limited time to prepare, we'd probably wind up using this at the team trial because there are no appearance points. And the other thing is, I really hate to take the Typhoon and maybe put it in a high-risk area here. You have to change everything around. It's working so good with the 72 and the carbon tank. I just hate to tamper with that. Anyway, we will have both of them, of course, and we'll make that decision if we do get to go. Now here's where the dividends really get paid. When we took this apart, I don't know if you remember, but we took the original motor, tank and everything out of it, and marked everything. So we have a record of exactly, even the needle valve setting, exactly where it was
all of that makes putting it back together when you're going to be switching from a pipe motor to a four-stroke to a four-stroke device. Well, it just makes it that much easier because you don't have to go back again. The other thing is I have a couple of handles. I'm going to try some different handles today because I know with the repair the plane is heavier. It's more than likely going to need some flap tweaking. Going to probably need other things, but we don't know. But we're basically at least back to square one. And now that George has passed on, I really hate to, I miss him, to tell you the truth. I miss calling him up and hollering at him. And debating. I love to debate him, which I guess we all did. But anyway, the bottom line is I have 4 of these jet motors, and I have about 7 or 8 pipes that I've been using with these motors, and so this then is just one more thing for me to develop in my, the things I like to challenge myself with, to see if we get the same RPM. It'll be interesting to see. But it's always good when you take a plane apart and mark everything. I think that's just such a good idea.
Even though we've had the plane to the field and we have taken flights on it before today, we've never got stunt pattern flights. And we've always had Mike flying a plane or something air crazy. This is the first day. The air isn't really good, but it's good enough that I can evaluate where and when I need to tweak this. Now, the first thing I noticed, and it's a major thing, is it's more nose heavy than I remember it being. Now, I don't know because we put a lot of that weight maybe in front of the CG. I know changing the tank area, I probably added a ½ an ounce. So I don't know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust it by wrapping solder on and off the tail wheel until I get the CG back that I want. Then when I put all the trim on the plane, I'm going to be real careful about this because there's a sweet spot right about, I don't know if it's 22% or 23% or whatever it is. There's a spot at which it really seems to have a nice corner and tracks nice, and then a little more tail heavy and it gets really hard to fly level, and it doesn't corner any harder. And then the other thing is when it's on its nose heavy side, and when we've flown it with the heavier spinners and with the 56, it really loses a lot of performance. It's a very, and I don't know why. I'm not sure why. I mean, other people that maybe know a little more than I do, it seems like it's a delicate plane to trim. It really is very delicate to get the tip weight right, the nose weight and tail weight. So we're going to try to get a couple of flights today and then make some other trim changes that we've been anticipating. But so far, I mean, all the flights I've had, it looks like it's back. I laugh about that I'm back stuff. But we have another plane, I mean a real competitive plane in our Air Force at last. just like the real Miss Ashley, I was not really ready for what was to happen on the next flight, any more than Gary Levitz was, but it was inevitable. And I happened to have the camera running when it happened, and I'm still not sure exactly what happened, but the camera was running. And if you watch it, maybe you can play it even in slow motion, maybe you can figure it out. The only difference is, when these kind of things happen to a real Reno air racer, of course you pay with your life, and in my case, you pay with just a bitter disappointment.
Well, I don't know if we got that on video, but that was pretty, wow. And I'm not sure what failed, but the control system's intact. Now, I'm not sure I can tell. I looked at this control system. Everything is intact. I'm not sure I can tell what broke. Now see, the collateral damage from having already crashed the model makes this a tough autopsy to do. You can't really tell what broke. And it could be damage that's already taken place. I'll have to look at the video in slow motion. But boy, oh boy, Miss Ashley, you are not getting fixed this time. And ironically enough, we just got the parts to make the mold for the ring. But now, as bad as this is, it's a good thing this didn't happen at the team trials where oil over concrete, where we would have lost our motor, and those motors now are irreplaceable, those George Aldrich GMA jets. Anyway, we'll take it home, do a real autopsy, look at the footage in slow motion, but I'm not sure. Something felt like it broke inside the wing. You really can't tell. Once a plane's been crashed and repaired, you're really on borrowed time. And in the case of Miss Ashley, that time ran out today at look at it, it's the time that we normally would be on the flight. Anyway, back to the shop and we'll do our mandatory autopsy. It's been a very exciting life. And every model that ends this way, I always look around and I think Tsunami and Miss Ashley.
These planes really did have an exciting life. We learned a lot from them in the time we had them, and we'll go on to build other models and better models.
Saturday was a dark day in Reno. They launched the fastest unlimited aircraft for Heat Race 3A. The plane you're watching is Miss Ashley 2, flown by racing veteran Gary Levitz. It was to be Gary's last race. The planes came down the chute and out onto the course. They would circle the pylons once. The actual race time would start when they crossed the home pylon. Gary passed my camera position and he was looking and sounding great. A few moments later, just after passing the home pylon and going into the first turn, his plane suddenly pitched down and came apart in the air. Miraculously, nobody on the ground was injured. And thus came to an end the life of a beloved son, a father, a husband, a close brother, and a friend to all the rest of us who remained. Skyfire will be releasing a special video story on Gary Levitz early next year.
Now, it just seems like a day we basically thought about nothing but this crash. I'm going to pull this all apart in the near future, but right now I'm just too distraught. I wish I was an alcoholic, to tell you the truth. Anyway, but a couple of quick lessons that I think paid, or I'm glad we didn't spend what would have been 20, 30 hours buffing and doing a fancy paintwork, touching everything up. We finally got to see, not that we really couldn't live without it, we got to see what part of a carbon fiber fuselage broke first. In a crash, you can see where the weak point is, but the nose is absolutely rock solid. I wish we had a plane we could just glue this onto. Anyway, the motor mounts, the tank shims, the 4-cycle retrofits. Every part of this seems like it was a productive learning experience. And the truth is, the things you take away from this, it's the learning. And it's been a sad day in Black Rock, that's for sure. It isn't even 3 o'clock of the day of the crash. 3 hours later, we're already putting the motor into Strega, so we have something to fly tomorrow. Again, it's in the education, the learning, and I was real happy with the way the motor was running. I just, we've been doing so much work with 4-strokes. I don't want people to get the idea that I don't like the jets and the PAs and stuff. And this one, I just thought was an exceptional one. That was one of the last ones George did for me before he passed away. So we're going to take the hardware out of Miss Ashley, the motor, the pipe, all of the parts that we can use, and of course the carbon fiber tank, which did not even get hurt in the crash. We've already got the tank in there. I need to do a little work making a new set of motor mount pads. These things were so chewed up from doing retrofit. This plane has had every motor you could ever put in there, and it probably, before the year's out, it's probably going to have the laser in there. But right now we're going to get the GMA Jet 60 in there with the windy pipe. We'd like to get a couple more days of flying, but it was a heartbreaker with Miss Ashley. That was really a heartbreaker. In the end, you always think about the good times. When somebody passes away, or I mean, and this may seem silly, but I count these planes as they're almost like little human people. Each one has a personality. They're good, they're bad, they're cantankerous, but they're always so much fun. They really do add a dimension to your life. Anyway, we're going to get back out tomorrow and continue testing. And that's one of the important things, is after a crash, have your cry, have a couple of beers or whatever, and got to get back to the shop and get to work. The nice things about having the planes all retrofit with several engines, you can swap them in a matter of minutes. And in this case, we can switch from the 56 to basically to the Jet, the PA, or a Tiger 60, all within a matter of just in a matter of minutes, really. We can do it right at the field, too. But anyway, our primary objective is to get more and more flights on these carbon fiber tanks. And we want to get them in 4 strokes, in piped engines, and even we're going to set up a Tiger 60 before the week's out. As I'm doing this little impromptu autopsy, one of the things I always look for is where, see, because I look at that video over and over again, I even played it in slow motion a few times, it looks like what might have happened is the ring might have broken right at the end of the fillet here from the fuselage, because it broke in a down position, and when it broke, it pushed the controls into full down or full up, whatever the case may be, I'm not sure. But it's sheared pretty close here on both sides. So what I think, what I can learn from this experience is the next plane, I'm going to glass out maybe 2 or 3 inches, or another choice, just use 3/32 wood instead of 16th. If you look at how the carbon fiber broke, and you can see, now let's pretend, see, this is the kind of thing you can benefit somewhat, and it's in the knowledge that you really grow as a modeler and as a person. You can see, this wouldn't take a rocket scientist to figure out. You could even put some Scotch tape and epoxy on this, and probably this would be a clean, whistle-clean repair, assuming you had the other part. Or you could laminate some 16th on the inside or some more carbon. The tank shim part of this, everything here held up pretty well. I'm convinced now that I'll never have to use blind nuts in my carbon fiber mounts. That's overkill now. Everything in there, I think that was relatively successful. Now, it's a shame, because what I can do is, actually I can give this to somebody. Think of somebody who really does collect these things, I don't know. Be a nice memento. You know, you could make it like a moose, cut it off here, put a motor or spinner in a thing, and just have it like it was like a trophy, I guess. Get this real close, you can see it's a pretty, what I surmise, it looks like that was a pretty close break. And what I think is really appropriate here, I'm really going to make sure the next model I either use, again, 3/32 wood or glass this inside. Actually, we have a 1 wing panel. You could make something out of this, I'm not sure. But that was a pretty clean break, and probably what happened, because of the repair, now see where this is repaired, this is solid as a rock, because it's double and triple balsa. But over here it's not. So what probably happened is from that, and again, this is why you don't go and do 100 hours of inking and buffing and everything before you fly. It's good to fly the plane, and if it's going to fail, the sooner it fails, the better it is. Wing didn't fare so well from the crash. Well, you can pretty much see. But it looks like, when it breaks this clean, it looks like I might have built a stress riser in there when I did the repair. Again, if this happened and the plane had never been crashed, I'd be thinking totally differently. But right now, like I said, right now I'll answer the phone. And the gear blocks held up perfectly as they always do. A real significant thing, but these gear probably fit the Typhoon, and I could paint them white, put the Invader, and what it would be, it would give me a spare set of gear. These are a little bit lighter than the Typhoon gear. So when we start flying the Typhoon again, that'll be one of the choices we have. We could probably knock maybe another ½ ounce off the Typhoon just by using these gear. I mean, that's a hell of a thing to do with pirating parts like cloning here. But everything has a purpose. I always feel everything, there's a reason everything happens in life, and maybe these parts will wind up somewhere in the future on some other plane. The bell crank that was in the plane, and what I always look for anywhere whatsoever, in this case there's none. No wear on the bushing at all. This plane probably has 1,000 flights. 0 wear on that fulcrum. The tight bushing, which is always the one from the bell crank, there's nothing. And the one where we have the slop, we still have the same amount of slop, a 3/32 and an 1/8. And I took the tail horn off because I didn't want to break the tail in half. Maybe that tail could even be fixed, I don't even know. Genius to figure out where the stress riser is on this type of a tail. It's right outboard of the fuselage. Anyway, and one of the things I'm going to learn from this is in the future I'm going to
glass, maybe an inch out, maybe in an ellipse pattern. Not that that would have saved it, but in the horn is just about as tight as the day we put it in there. Stella loaned me this. It's an audio tape, and it's got all the different engines, the flybys, cockpit, in flight. It's really a neat video, and it's not a video, it's an audio. It's the kind of thing that, well, if you're interested in, these are always available in the aviation magazines. This one is a lot of fun. We'll be using it. Anybody that would want to borrow it, just give Mike Costello a call. He's the one that's loaned it to me. And we'll get back to working on the tanks. Now, in trying to get ready for the team trials, what I usually would have done is shoot some video of the various planes that I thought would work out well. And I had myself a little fly-off this morning. And what usually happens is something that you don't really expect. Yeah, I'm reviewing the video of the flights right now. Another missed intersection. Two missed intersections. Anyway, what I did in essence was I tried to evaluate which one of these planes is going to be the best at the team trials. Now, keep in mind, I'm still not sure if I can go, but in preparing it serves two purposes now. The biggest one is I can get some more flights on my carbon fiber tank. And what I'm also going to do, I'm going to set up the I-beam Spitfire, which has a metal tank in it, and it'll give me two planes that I can practice with for the next 3 days, and then make a decision which one I like the best. And at the same time, I can be developing and making some final decisions on the tank venting and the baffling and the shapes that I want to have for these tanks. We've already got the one in the Typhoon just about perfect. The ones on the 4-strokes are a lot less critical than they are on the pipe motors. And the only way you really know, at least the only way I know, and watch how bad this intersection is. I haven't even seen this yet. Oh yeah, real good. Maybe we shouldn't go. Anyway, what it was, we just didn't get a lot of flights on this. We're still working with props and stuff and trying to get this back into trim. But one of the things I want to do today, there's a couple of spots you can see where they are, where the paint is absolutely, I forget this is an 8-year-old model, 9-year-old. And there's a lot of spots where the paint is all chipped up and buffed through. And what I'm going to do is do a couple little touch-ups on this, or in some way try to make this a little more presentable. And then while this paint is drying, I'm going to get down the old I-beam Spitfire and try to get the measurements off so I can make a carbon tank for that plane. I was real happy with the way this carbon fiber tank worked out in this model. Everything about this, and we took such a significant amount of weight off of the nose by putting the 72 in and the carbon tank. The change was so dramatic that what I really need now, and I'm not going to have the time to do this, the problem is I don't have the time, is I need 3-4 days at the field to reorient myself with this plane is now a very violent turning plane, where before it had a tremendous lock. And it's going to require a whole different handle, a different set of lines. It's going to need a major retrim. But I think somewhere down the road, it's going to be better than it was with the 91 if I get this all finalized. Now, I had thought about using again, keep in mind with this team trials thing, now, there isn't a lot of chance that I'm going to be on the team. I'm always the runner-up or 6-back or something. So what I try to do is use it for a learning experience. And I always try to test something that I need some time testing. In this case, the most important thing is the carbon fiber tanks. When I come back from the team trials, I want to know for sure that they're going to work for me in the future. We had the word had is going to be used a lot now with Miss Ashley. When we had in Miss Ashley, I thought was just near perfect. Australia has been working, and I reviewed that video 3 or 4 times already to fly. The geometry is terrible, but I'll really have 2 more flying days to prepare, 3 more if it doesn't rain today. And what I'm going to try to do is look at the geometry errors while I'm working on this plane. There's a couple of things I wanted to do. One of them, I wanted to get rid of the checkerboards on the rudder. I never did like that. It's distracting when it's flying
that it's hanging out in the back, and I just want to do a quick repaint. See, the nice thing about the team trails, no appearance points. You're not doing this for appearance. You do it because I want to maintain the look that I'm looking for while the plane is in the air. I also, from having this spinner in 10,000 flights, and it really is an old Vico spinner, I figure it's time to clean it up, polish it up. And in essence, even though there aren't any appearance points, it's always nice if we're going to go there to have a plane that's as presentable as possible. And there's so many cracks and nicks. I mean, remember, the whole wing was off of this plane at one time. But I don't want it to be a glaring thing. I also have a little trim tab, and in the course of this plane aging, it wound up needing this trim tab, which it didn't need when it was new and before it was repaired. So obviously we've got it close but no cigar. And we'll try to make up a little bit neater appearance. The back part, and maybe I got to figure some way of maybe repainting the top of this, but I want to do it with an airbrush or something that'll add the minimum amount of paint. I do, and these repairs, when the planes get 9 and 10 and 8 years old, they get difficult at best to do. It's difficult to get the paint to stick, but the first thing is I try to clean the whole model, since I'm going to be handling it and touching it. Clean the whole model with Sikkens M600, and usually you'll see what happens with this. Because this paint is so thin, you can see it's actually, some of it's actually coming off. And this might be 8 years, yeah. I keep wondering. This was made in 93, flown in 94, no, 94, 95. It's only 7 years old. So why isn't it looking brand new? Anyway, cleaning this all up gives me another way of looking around to see if there are any spots, cracking, chipping, where I can keep oil from getting into the inside of the model. And this is the one thing that's wrong with this plane. It's not a take-apart plane. If it was a take-apart plane, wow, unbolt the body and just throw it away. The body is rotted, the wing is just like the day it was made, except for the fact it's been repaired. And that's a cosmetic fix on the outboard wing. That wouldn't even matter on. If I could just get this body off, I could in essence make a new plane out of it. Every once in a while to totally clean the model with Sikkens M600, especially if you're going to put it away for a while. We're not putting this away, but I don't want to take the model apart any more than I have to, because everything on this model is really getting oil soaked. This was the whole reason I went and thought it was appropriate to invest in the tooling and the technology for doing molded carbon bodies. The Miss Ashley body, the part that isn't broken, there is not a drop of oil anywhere soaked in. It's for all purposes, just like the day it was made. Now we're going to have to try to do some creative masking here. First I want to spray that rudder. I'll clean that rudder up. Doing a repair like this, the purpose of wiping a whole plane down with M600 is so this tape here will stick. We know we're not going to get a concourse line there, but close enough is good. Now, I also put extra fisheye killer in the paint. Now this is Brodak silver going over what I think the plane was done with SIG. Yeah, it was. That was before there ever was Brodak. Let me get the phone. Thing how the phone rings the minute you... Again, if I didn't put the silver on here, those checkerboards would show through. I thought this would be a good little exercise and something to show on a video. Now we're also having a terrible problem with humidity lately, and so is John Brodak. He has told me the same thing. The humidity this summer, this has probably been the worst New Jersey summer of all time. And I have been trying to do these little paint things early in the morning before Karen got home. And then I leave the door open and the fan's going. And it's really a stopgap way of doing things, but we only have a few days left. And keep in mind, this team trial thing is such a screwed up thing. See, all the things, it's like you have to totally orient yourself for that one contest. The 7 minutes is a nuisance. You can't use a throttle, you can't use a starter, there's no appearance points, they judge it differently, it makes you crazy. You wish they would just have an AMA stunt contest and be done with it. Anyway, while this
this is drying, I'm going to try to come up with some little pattern to mask off that nose section. Now, I thought of a lot of things, and this is the kind of thing you have to do to be creative. I thought of making this orange because I didn't like the checkerboard. I just wasn't happy with that. And then I thought I'd try to find some, this is old Sig red. There's no way you're going to get this to match. So then I thought, well, let's see how it looks with Miss Ashley red. But if we don't like it, we can paint it over in orange. And that'll be, even though this isn't a good choice, that'll be probably the only choice we have. A lot of times you're just totally limited as to what you can or can't do. And as I expected, this isn't going to match at all. So maybe we're just wasting our time. Maybe I should just mix up the orange and be done with it. And we'll see how it looks when we're done. I remember fighting with other brands of paint, trying to get things to match. Almost impossible. Once stuff is 8, 9 years old, getting a perfect match, you'd probably have to be Bob Brookins to get a perfect match. And again, we only need this to look presentable from 10 feet away. Nobody's going to walk over and put their hand on it. I'm not going to put any clear on it.
Run right through. Well, I'm not sure I'm going to be happy with that. Once it dries, I'll take, because it'll change color, I'll take the paper off, look at it. In the meantime, I want to work on some way of disguising all of these bad spots, and you can see they really are. The plane really has had a lot of flying in the last, how many years we've had it? 7, 8 years. Drying, I thought of another thing. The Strega gear are pretty well cracked because, of course, they're very old and wooden. But we just pirated a pair off Miss Ashley, and the paint is close enough. I'm just going to make sure I get the same alignment on them. And they're about 1/8 of an ounce lighter each. And we'll just keep these for spares, keep these in the toolbox. But that'll certainly help, if nothing else, make the plane look half decent anyway. The benefit of setting this up, something I didn't really expect. See, I try to get the gear in a good alignment. They fit in Strega perfectly, of course, and it's always good to make these parts interchangeable, use the same block arrangement. But there's another thing they're even good for. When we converted this from a 91, where we needed clearance for a 15-inch prop, now we only need clearance for maybe a 13 or a 14. Well, we can even repaint the gear with the Invasion stripe after the team trials and try the shorter gear. Or we can even just make a set of shorter gear if we like the way it looks. That'll knock another 1/4 of an ounce, half ounce off the plane. So every time you do this, the plane gets a little lighter, a little lighter. Sooner or later, it's like being on a diet. Sooner or later, it pays. This is the best I could come up with as a way of kind of disguising some of this. I'm not going to get the piece in the back. That's the only unfortunate thing. This will cover the top piece, though. And I think that's the most significant thing. So what I'm going to do is just spray this black, no clear at all, and we're just going to live with it.
This is what's nice. As Will Namora's little gun, it's very nice to touch up like this. For this kind of a thing. And a good thing about using Rodak Gold, this will be drying out. Actually, if you wanted to fly a plane this afternoon, but the weather is not cooperating. I think there's just a curse on here somewhere. Somebody put a curse on me. I see something I forgot to do. I forgot to put a little piece of paper in that, windy. Every time you think you got everything figured out, otherwise I'm going to wind up painting engines. That's the only black Jet 60 George ever made. Anyway, between Miss Ashley's crash and just not having a lot of good quality flying time, this has been a, I don't even know if adventure is the right word. But we still hold it at the outside chance, hoping that we're going to be able to go to team trials. If for no other reason than to hang out with Ken Kaiser for a while. He's bringing his swag, I'm sure. No matter where we go, we always have a good time. Now, Bob Brookins would probably say, this is not one coat. Well, it is one coat to me. I'm putting on a wet coat, because I'm not going to put any clear on this. This is just a lick and a promise job. I don't want to start adding an ounce to the plane. And it looks like this is fogging up just a little bit. I'm going to go add a little bit of retarder to this. Just maybe 10% retarder, or else I'm going to have a gray top. I never like to put more than 10% retarder, but a day like today I may have to. Come on, retarder, we don't want to see you all fogged up. There we go. You can see it's just, I can just tell by looking at it we're okay now. James Mills was painting his Shark and had this exact problem that I'm having right now, and I suggested to him, put the compressor in the room with the dehumidifier and the air conditioner, and it worked perfectly. And that's all we're giving it. There'll be no more. There'll be no buffing. And I'll wipe this off as carefully as I can. Let this dry outside. See, I always miss a spot. When I look around, the second time around, I look and I miss the spot. Now see, that's a wet coat. That's what Bob Brookins would probably call a wet coat. I call that one coat. It's a wet coat. I just spray it till it looks wet. Now, to get away with doing this in high humidity conditions, air conditioner is running, dehumidifier is running, fans are now running. Now that I'm done spraying, you can see, this is the part people have trouble with. They want to paint. You can't ever get more humidity than it's raining. Raining is 100%. So here we are as a demonstration painting. It's raining outside, as it's been the last 4 or 5 days, on and off. If you have a fan, a dehumidifier, and an air conditioner, and a wife that won't kill you, you basically get away with this. I'm just going to paint this tab up or make a replacement for it. And we're, hopefully, once this is dry, we'll pull back the masking tape, and I hope tomorrow it doesn't rain. Just get a little, I look at these pictures when a plane is brand new, and I wonder, if I knew then what was in store, every model, of course, even Miss Ashley, these planes have a varied life. And I think they are just like people. You never know what's coming. Good or bad. It could be good. Anyway, now that we got the repaint done, the spot's touched up, we put it aside, and we're just going to hopefully get to the field. Now, we'll hopefully go answer the phone. You believe this? You just can't get a break today. In the plane, I just put the trim tab on with ordinary Scotch tape. But now I have these little inserts, and what I do, I thread the balsa wood first. I drilled some pilot holes, make sure I have the threads in there, and then I'll just put a couple of drops of 5-minute epoxy on there, kind of get the threads started.
Oh, I know what's happening. This one's going into a rib. See, this is a problem. We've got to clear that rib. And it doesn't take more than a drop or two of epoxy. There we go. So mix up the epoxy. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you have it in the bottom of the wing, the top of the wing. What I found to be the most effective thing, and I hate to tweak flaps. Tweaking a flap is the absolute last resort. I always would rather do it with a trim tab. The reason is it doesn't knock neutral out. When you tweak a flap, one flap is not a neutral anymore. And you get all kind of crazy things where the plane rises up out of maneuvers, and you spend more time trying to solve that problem than the one you originally started with. So I always would prefer a little tab. And of course the nice thing, you can always take it off. Now I also take this, I put a little bit of ordinary oil on the screw. A lot of this stuff is just common sense, even though a lot of people like to tweak flaps, but then your neutral is not neutral. And I've just done it so many times and chased my tail that I just feel like trim tabs are a little bit better. Some people think they're ugly. Well, they're not ugly when you win the contest. They're only ugly when you're out in the field making yourself crazy. Now I'll wait until there's oil on the screw thread, so as soon as that dries, and I'll have my little tab, the paint will be dry by then. Put a quick coat of Brodak white on it. And this will allow me an infinite adjustment. This will work on any plane, top or bottom of the wing, anywhere. Dries any excess, I can just wipe off this way. Once that dries, I'll have a nice permanent mount. Oh, it's dry, and I made up an extra trim tab. Just spread it with one coat of Brodak white while that's drying. When it's all done, I can put the two screws in and be ready to go. Yeah, I love these old Vico spinners. I would love to have a spare. The last one we had got demolished when this actually went in. They are really nice. Anyway, we got it a little cleaned up. We got some new landing gear on it. We have a spare pipe that we'd like to try. That's coming next time we get to take the motor out. And of course we want to set up a spare motor if we're going to go to the team trails. Now this came in the mail from Pete Klepsik. I was not aware I was going to receive this award, but I'll certainly hang this in a place of honor in the house. And I'll just read this real quick. This is a beautiful plaque, by the way. Field Marshal's Award, Wendy Artnowski, and Peeps. Hey, Peeps. Peeps, you've been given an award. Look, Peeps, Peeps, come look at your award. Look at him. Look, Peeps. Actually, we ought to cross Peeps off. Watch. Peeps. I'm not kidding. Watch how mad he gets. Pete, he insists I take this tape off. Anyway, for your dedication and many hours of hard work at the Brodak Fly-Ins. And by the way, there's actually a lot of people that I would assume deserve this award. There's just too many to name. I would like to show my appreciation along with many thanks for a job well done. The Brodak Fly-In has become the largest. You could take the word largest and forget it, because that's not important. It's the best control line event in the nation, world, planet. Believe me. In memory of George Aldrich, the spirit of stunt, I am absolutely speechless. Pete, I didn't know this was coming. I had it in an envelope and I thought it was some videos you were returning or something, or I would have opened it yesterday. Absolutely beautiful, and I'm speechless. I'm going to hang it in a place of honor, believe me. Pete and John and everybody, I want you to know I have it right underneath my AMA Pioneers Award. Boy, that is special, especially because it's devoted to George, dedicated to George. I want to be very sure you understand. Thank you very much, both of you. And boy, if you've not been to a Brodak fly-in, from the first time I ever set foot on that field, it is the best experience in the world of model aviation, bar none. On a lighter note, I know the kids gave me this for my birthday, and of course, this I thought was going to be cute for peeps. You push a button, or it has an electric eye. When you walk by, it goes on, and it makes noise, right? And I thought peeps would love it. You know what? He hates it. He can't stand it. He won't even go near it. You've got to hold him in your hand to even get him near it. Bring the bird. He doesn't like this bird. Hard to believe. Kids have such good intentions, but Peeps does not like. Look at him. He doesn't like the red. What's become known as the red bird. We ought to mail this bird to Pete Klipsick. Peeps is in favor of that. Yeah, mail him that red bird. I hate that red bird. I can't stand that red bird. Get that red bird out of here. To tell you, you are one crazy bird, and at least Pete Klipsick recognizes that. He sits up there by Ted Fancher's picture. Peeps! Hey! Time to get back to work, Peeps. No, he's one of my favorite planes, and he's been up in the Spitfire bedroom for a couple of years. And whenever I take any of these models down, because they've been in storage, now this has a steel tank in it, and the tank is stored full of fuel. Obviously, you do the opposite with a carbon tank. You clean it. And don't clean it, just empty it. But we're going to take the powertrain out. Now, what I want to do is the powertrain I was using in this Ashley, the pipe and that motor, and that was one of the ones that George made just before he died. One of the real, I guess experimental ones is the way, but they were all good. But I wanted to take that whole powertrain out of Miss Ashley. Now, the advantage of doing this way is I'll have the same for the team trials. Again, if we get to go, I'll have the same powertrain in Strega as in this plane, and I can switch powertrains rather than having one with a Tiger 60 and one with something else and not being able to switch them. As I always do, and you can see I've already oiled them. I oil the readouts because when things sit for a while, I ran a little steel wool on them, make sure that everything was nice and free. I'll put one drop of oil on all the hinges, put a nice coat of wax on it, and then we'll flip it over, get the powertrain in there. And I'm going to look around and see if I have any spin. This is really a show spinner. Well, maybe we can use it. It's got a carbon backplate already. But the big thing will be, now we've never flown this plane with that 1.5 ounces. It's a little more than 1.5 ounces on some of these tanks. With that weight out of the nose, this might turn out to be even better than it was the year we flew it at the Nats. We won't really know. Worth mentioning, and I wanted to know if I really wish I would have done more flying on this plane for a simple reason. This was an experimental plane. It has a carbon fiber spar in the wing. One-piece carbon fiber I-beam spar. And I was just curious how that was going to work out, and it seems like the wing is still in one piece. Now, the nice thing about having these planes, it's a luxury some people have that have a lot of planes. You can just go up to the room, take one off the shelf, off the wall, cut a couple zip ties, clean the tank, and you're basically back in business again. And this will give us another plane to test these tanks in. Tanks that go in pipe planes, I can make them with a little V-notch so that the header slips by, but what happens is you lose about 1/2 ounce of fuel capacity when you do that. So I want to be real careful when I fit up the tank, and I may have to make a custom one, a special one, that I get the tank as close to the motor as possible and then get that notch exactly where it should be for the header, or there's no point in losing that capacity. A standard one to a tuned pipe one, and a different venting. I locate the vents differently because here they would have to clear the header. So these are all things I'm evolving as I'm making more and more of these carbon tanks. And so far I've learned a lot, and so far they've been working pretty well. And the Typhoon is exceptionally good. It has a nice clean shutoff and everything. But again, for the 4 strokes, I don't use any uniflow pipe at all. I just run it into an open vent, and that seems to work the best on a 72, the 91, and the 56. It just doesn't seem to matter. In fact, Joe Adamusco had the best luck by not using a uniflow pipe, just capping it off and running it to the overflow vent. So if that's the case, there really isn't much purpose in putting a uniflow vent in the tank.
Never do is after the hinge line tape is a year or so old, I want to get rid of it, and this is the old John Brodak tip. Tip is don't let go of it. Warm it up a little with a hairdryer, you can see it's coming right off, doesn't pick up the paint. And we'll replace the old tape as part of the maintenance. Now, the reason I'm going through this is I know a couple of friends of mine, but more than one. They leave a model on a wall for 6 years, they take it off and they want to fly it. The first flight, they get a lean run, there's junk in the tank, a wheel comes off, the hinge line tape cracks on one side. Yeah, because we're not having any good weather, there's no point in not putting a day of maintenance in this, even if I don't get to use this, or if this becomes the backup plane and we never even take it out of the car, I'll be one step ahead for the flying season coming. And by the way, just before George passed away, we were working on pipe development, and the reason I'm real excited is the last pipe we made was the one I thought was running the best, and this is the plane, if you notice the initials on it, that I had dedicated to George. And it just seems appropriate, maybe we get to fly it at the team trials or just have it as the backup plane. It just seems like it's, when somebody passes away, I think about them every day, and I think about all the fun phone calls we used to have, and believe me, I wish I would have recorded some of them. Put any new hinge line tape on, and I'll cut it to the thickness I want. Because these elevators are solid wood. They're very thin. It'll be very easy. I can just use tape very thin. Normally when the elevators are thicker, it's kind of tricky getting it inside there. Clean it well with M600. I'm even cleaning some of the goop out of the hinges. Because this plane's been sitting up there a couple of years. Tape, and of course I take some of the torn up paper towel, and this just holds it in a full deflection position while I lay out the tape. This is the way I do it. If you have a friend, obviously have them just hold the controls. You want the controls fully deflected, and just cut the tape to length. I'm always surprised how many people they'll spend hundreds of hours building a beautiful plane, but when it comes to the daily routine maintenance, once they fly a plane, it's like it never gets maintained. Now, I was happy to see Kent Tyser when he was here. Karen harassed him about the plane getting a little dull and fuzzy. He spent 2 days buffing the plane back out and probably got himself at least 1 or maybe more appearance points. Plus, it's the satisfaction of having something. I just love having nice models. Even when you're not flying them, there's a certain comfort of just having something nice hanging on the wall. Just going up there and looking at it. Information purposes, every plane I have, every single one, wound up or winds up with hinge line tape. What happens is I never even fly a plane without hinge line tape. I just never even bother because it always winds up with the hinge lines taped. And in some planes it makes a dramatic increase, in some it's a small increase. But even if there's no increase at all, nothing bad happens when you do that. And the tape, if you can get it to last the season, fine. If not, just replace it. It's pennies. I had to move this vent, and I made it. You can see what I've done, just so I have a little clearance on the venting.
Sleep nights, summer holiday.
This gives me just enough clearance on the header that I can get a full-size 6-ounce tank in there, which is probably what we're going to wind up using.
But when you hold me tight,
When you think everything is easy to deal with, Mike lost his cardinal this morning. Miss Jamie is now scattered all over the field. And sadly, that's pretty much going to end our day here at the field. what's left of the orange crate planes that they built the other day. Oh, God. Because everybody wants to see this Stuka. Stuka.
On video. No, this is too long.
Yeah, that's too thin in the back. That's getting real skinny back there, baby.
Well, I can cut.
This is okay. I mean, wide doesn't matter. Typhoon is way wider.
I know that. I gotta cut this down a little bit longer.
Yeah. Let's see how you did the front here. This is good that you didn't leave this out here and put the screws in that way.
Yeah, I may just cut a little bit off.
Yeah.
But my point is this. You see, this has got to come down a little bit further.
Yes.
Down about another 1/4 inch. But here,
that's getting really skinny. That thing's going to be wiggly there. I don't know.
Well, it's only
see, you made this too thin. You should have made this a 1/4 inch thicker. Because you don't see. Yeah, that's like an over in the back. This could have been wider. Can you slit that and just put a little, maybe an 1/8 inch shim on each?
Well,
see, this is.
I can open this up.
Well,
I got to change the
what you could do.
I got to change the farmers.
That's really getting narrow back here. That
Well, this is the same width as the
but it's not as thick. The other one is thicker this way. So in other words, you're narrowing down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'd hate to see the thing.
Well, I was thinking of putting.
Yeah, you could do that. Put crosses and also fiberglass in front of the tail.
Yeah.
Put a little glass cloth in there.
My point is, you see this here?
Yeah.
I don't know if it should be a little bit higher.
Yeah, it should.
You know, that's no problem because I can cut it here and put another piece.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. Put a piece of 1/4 inch under there.
You know? Just even...
Yeah. That looks nice. They're going to come out nice. Canopy fits on pretty good.
Yeah.
No,
The other
really.
thing is this, look.
Let's see how they did the nose.
Now, the problem is, I don't know if it's a problem, but when I shave this down to the spinner,
Yeah.
I'm not going to have much material around here.
Let me explain what you're going to do. Take some 1/8 inch light ply
And bring it
and make
bring it-
doublers in here, like 3 of them. Cut this all in, and then when you're done, hollow it out. But use light ply, because it's going to get thin as paper.
basswood?
Basswood. Get a piece of 1/4 inch basswood from Ridgefield Hobbies.
Right.
Basswood is good. It has no grain.
Yeah, this way.
Yeah, that worked out nice. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I got it
that's
all.
a nice construction.
I got
I think I'll have a good motor run.
I have all the
Yeah, I see. That's nice.
clear stuff on it.
Yeah, good.
I put that together before putting in the
It looks
tank.
nice.
You know?
It looks nice.
And I need another header.
I got headers.
A higher one, because this one is just a little too low.
Is that a 60 jet or a 50?
It's yours. It's your
Oh,
engine.
that's mine.
It's your
Okay.
engine.
Yeah,
But I just needed to shape it,
Yeah,
later
okay.
on and give it back to
I
you.
want to take this to the team trials with me,
Yeah,
so if you're done with
I'll
it,
give it back.
just give it back
I'll give
to
it
me.
back to you, yeah.
I'll throw in a bag so I have a spare motor.
So that's what you think I should do, huh?
Yes.
I should make this a little bit higher.
And if you make it thin, glass the part that's
Oh, yeah,
thin.
yeah.
Glass or
over
double
here.
Yeah, I know, it's
The
thin though.
stabilizer goes.
Because if that plane, if the tail is doing this,
Oh, no, I wanted to do
not
this.
in the wind, the thing will make you
I don't want
crazy.
to do that.
Obviously be our next repair project. Mike has already got Brian. Brian has a wing that I think just needs to be finished. So what we did from the unfortunate crash here is we tried to make it as easy as possible that we can get the new wing in there. And what I thought we'd do with this is we're going to remove one rib on each side and try to join the two halves and make what will amount to be a 56 Sato size profile cardinal using this wing. And you know what? Even in this crash, as freaky as this is, there wasn't even a hole in the silk span. It only busted the sheeting. So I think this is going to be a doable repair, and it's going to make you'll have a short nose 56. That's one of the tentative plans anyway. But didn't do any damage to the pipe or the motor. Actually, it's just the wing, and I'm so glad we're gonna. This will be the last time we ever don't have a mold for these wings, that we can go home and make a wing. One phase of our modeling career ends. This is from Johnny Duncan, and it's a half core. This is going to be the core for the mold for soon to be the carbon fiber Miss Ashley wing. And obviously, if we had this done and we weren't going to the team trials, we could go home and relatively easily make Mike a wing in a couple of days. But just, it's coming in the future. This will be the end. This will be the last time we ever have to deal with that kind of technology. And Mike is pretty depressed, but luckily we have tradition. After we're done with this short, what's now going to be a very short flying session, we're going to go home, put the 72 back in tradition, and Mike will have a plane to fly until we get that repair done. Plus, we probably won't get to do it until we get back from England. And it looks like our practice session with Strega is going to be a very, very short one. You got the tail of that Stuka done already too?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're moving.
Yeah, I got the stabilizer and I have the elevator built.
You know, for a change, you're going to be a little bit ahead of the game instead of 2 years behind.
You can't believe how frustrating it is.
I know. It ruins your whole winter when you're behind the 8th wall.
It gets to be around April.
Yeah, I know.
We got to do all kinds of stuff. I sent the canopy to Dave.
What did Dave say? He's going to be able to make them all?
Oh yeah, he said, I know what you want. You want a plug. I said, well, that's what Lindy said. I don't know
Yeah.
with these things.
No, that's what you want to do.
And he said,
And then you can clean up the plug and make it a little nicer than
I
that.
told him, I said, it's a little...
Yeah, that wasn't real good.
So he said, no problem, I'll make it for you.
Okay.
I told him, I said, by the way, next year, don't come to the Nats. As long as Woody comes, we're happy.
Yeah. I bet he was glad to hear that.
We don't want you to come, because you're a grouch compared to your father.
Yeah, Woody was fun this year.
And the old man.
You just keep him jumping and jiggling, and he's out giving those little race cars and stuff.
I told him we had such a ball with him, you know, we went to the sprint car
Yeah, yeah.
and the Moon Brothers, and I didn't tell him the other stuff. Ryan is flying very well.
Yeah, he's having fun with this plane. I'm glad this thing is working out very well for him.
But I'll tell you one thing.
I'll tell you, they've turned Cardinals into everything in the world, but this is definitely the most, not a pond racer is the most unusual one.
Oh yeah, he's
Clapson's pond racer.
yeah, here.
Oh, it's bad today.
I can't wait until...
Oh, get back to Palisade Park. Wow. Yeah, I was real careful this morning. I didn't want to have any
Oh,
problems.
you were stumping there.
Oh, every maneuver in a different spot.
You have your first flight today?
No, I had a flight before Mike crashed. He's got good use out of it. I'm very impressed.
I tell you, those Cardinals are okay.
They're okay. Not in the head, though, huh? Hey, now that we have that carbon mold ready to go, as soon as I get that, you won't even have to deal with laser cut ribs anymore.
Just by the way,
Just give me your paycheck. No, I'm going to have you guys...
get that price down.
Yeah, no, I'm going to have you guys buy your own material, and I'll just charge you the labor. Buy your own material. I don't care if you buy used, reprocessed carbon. I don't care.
Now, who sells it? Who sells that material again?
George Spark.
It's not
Aerospace Composites.
It is Aero.
Yeah, of course it is.
Okay, yeah.
I taught his son how to fly.
You're out in California?
Yeah. You got to buy so much of it to get the price. Now, you have to buy a whole roll, $30,000 or something to get it.
great.
You know, the only guy that could afford that, Rich, is you.
Yeah.
You and Van Jock with the big bucks. The big bucks operators. Guys that don't have to answer to their wife for where the money in the checking account went.
Well, when you start making those jets, then you'll be able to buy.
I like the way this one runs. This is the last one George made.
Well, he said he built mine. Mine was running low. I don't know what happened. Whatever. He said it's running low. I'm ready to send it back to you, and that was it. Running really good, he told me.
And always to end the entertainment before we leave to go get Mike a new plane. Just let it go right now, Brian. Just let it go. Always a way to end your flying day here. And well, we didn't get a lot done today. Sadly enough, all these crashes, we had 3 crashes already today. 2 other planes just crashed. World famous Larry Scaringi doing his entertaining thing of the day. He buys these planes with the motor already in them, right from Czechoslovakia or somewhere. We were here one day and the crankshaft on one broke, and we never even found the prop. The prop is still in the woods somewhere. They are entertaining, though. There's something in control line for everybody. Never a boring day at the circle burner field. Out to be a day of 3 individual crashes. I'm not sure if we had the black cloud of death over us or what here. Really not sure. A crazy day as we get ready for the theme trials. Just crazy beyond belief. That kind of day at the club field. It's just been a, I don't even know how to say it. Unbelievable. This will be the last flight for this term. And because Mike lost his plane, he's been flying Brian's plane and obviously this one. Now, old Strager happens to be one of Mike's... Oh, nice pull-out, Mike! Nice pull-out! Anyway, he really does like this plane, but the wind has really gotten hawky-dawky here. And over the years, many people have flown Strager. He's been a great test bed for our motor program, our 4-strokes and 2-strokes. Double stars, Tigers, Jets, PAs, they've all been in here. A great test plane.
And this is that last motor with the trick head that George made. It's kind of a little tribute to George Ulrich that we're finally getting some run time. The last year we've been spending a lot of time with the four-strokers. But the Jet is still a really nice motor. And there's nothing better than having one of everything and then making up your own mind what you like the best. Mike is nervous. Well, any day, it's always, and I'm not kidding, it really is, when you've lost the plane, it's always good to get back in the air. Well, yesterday with all the crashes, I was just totally careful this morning. I had a little fly-off between the two planes that I anticipated to see which one would probably be more appropriate for F2B, and I think we're going to go with Strega, assuming we don't crash that soon. We will have this as a backup, potentially, or maybe not, we don't know. So we have one more day to make a decision. Either way, this plane benefited tremendously by having, I believe, an ounce and a half out of the nose with the carbon tank. And we were able to get even a little more performance than we were getting before. So, and it seems like there's an across-the-board thing, and it doesn't matter really which plane you put it in. I guess it's just like money. Once you take out some weight, especially if it's unnecessary dead weight, performance just increases no matter what plane it is, no matter what motor you use. 4-cycle, 2-cycle, pipe, Tiger 60. The last thing we're going to test before we actually hopefully leave for England, we'd like to get our Super Tiger 60 Spitfire set up with a carbon tank too, so that'll pretty much complete the planes that we fly all the time, and every one of them will have a carbon tank. And that's the only way we're going to learn from 4 cycles, pipes, Tiger 60s. We'll have some of everything, and I think the tanks are going to prove to be, in the future, they're just going to be a really invaluable tool for trimming planes that are already built, and needless to say, make the planes in the future even better. So the winner of our little fly-off as we get ready to go to the team trials, we're at the end of this tape. It looks like Mr. Straga's been on good behavior. We wound up putting the Miss Ashley gear on it, doing a little touch-up paint, lightening it up in the nose with the carbon tank, getting a real light Vico spinner on there, and I think it's flying well enough that hopefully we'll be competitive. We started out relatively, about a month ago, thinking we'd get ready for the team trials with being able to fly the Typhoon. We didn't really have enough time to do all the trimming and things that are going to be required. It's a major thing to take 6 ounces out of an airplane. And so going with proven equipment that it seems like every time we fly it, it gets a little bit better. And when they're 6 years old, Bill Fitzgerald was the one that coined the phrase, new planes don't win the Nats, and he's probably right. And so having a plane with this many flights and this old, we're very familiar with it, of course, and the retrim that was necessary, getting that nose laid out, I can't tell you how, that is an amazing thing. And every time I do it, I've done it 4 or 5 or 6 times now, it seems even more amazing than the time before. Anyway, we're at the end of the tape, and on the next tape, we are going to go to the team trials. We're going to load up, maybe even load up tonight. Get out to Muncie and have a great time with Kent Tyser, I hope. Every year when we get ready for a team trials or we get ready for a big contest, I always think of it this way, you know, it's like a chapter in a book or like a, I don't know, a scene in a play or something. And when it's over, your life is one chapter closer to the end than from the beginning. Anyway, we'll see you on the team trail tape, on the next tape. We have a lot of mail to go through when we get back, and we will hopefully be having a real productive time at the team trails. And thanks for joining us. Please share the tapes. Share them with all your friends. Share all the knowledge, you know. And I think in doing that, we'll just have a better event. It'll just be more fun for everybody.